Good morning, guys. So yesterday we seen right about SonarQube, different features like how to exclude some files, some code from your code analysis, and we also seen SonarLink to ensure that you are using the same code rule set what you are using on the server on your local as well. So that whatever is the place wherever you are developing, you are using the same code rule set so that you are in the consistent way. So let's extend this CI process, continuous integration. So most of the organizations
Exactly.
do this. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Purnachandra. I have one doubt actually.
Yeah, please.
Actually, we are installing some SonarCube plugins and some customized plugins, right? Actually, for our daily based usage.
Mhm.
So where exactly they are storing means how much memory space we have for that to install those kind of stuff in our portal, and where exactly they are storing.
The plugins you meant to say on the pipeline, build pipeline.
No, actually, yesterday we means couple of yesterday 2 days, couple of days classes we have observed this Sonar Cube related those things, right? So
So
Sonar
it's
Cube
a bit of
Cloud we have installed.
okay.
So those kind of stuff I am asking about it.
Okay. You are talking about the memory that it takes for your code on the SonarQube.
Yes,
I can feel
exactly. Not even Sonar Cube. So we have so many plugins, right, to install and to utilize those kind of stuff. So where exactly those stuff are storing in my portal, and how much memory space I have to install those kind of outsource plugins.
okay. See, memory space, everything is as per the plugin, right? So we need to look at the plugin documentation, how much space it occupies and how much memory it takes. So that we have to go to the plugin doc. So let us say from the build pipeline, we are using some extensions, right? There is a documentation. It clearly says what is the dependency and how much memory it takes or how much space it takes basically. That we have to look at the documentation and I am not the person who decides it. So let's go through the documentation and coming to the point where it stores, right? It basically, if you are using it for the SonarCube, obviously it will be residing on your SonarCube server. And it is based on the location that is set by your plugin. Probably it might be in some install directory of your SonarCube. So it depends on the plugin development team where they wanted to keep their code. I mean, their executable. It's not one fit for everyone. So we need to look at the documentation of the respective plugin. It is just like installing Visual Studio or something, right? I don't have any control. I can hardly say take the D folder. Even though I say D folder, it will install even a few things on the C drive as well. So it's not in our control because we are just using some products or utilities from the vendors. So I will take if any other questions on top of that at the end of the session. We'll continue with this. Okay, Nasir.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. So database DevOps. So even DevOps, right? The people started using it slowly, and of course, 30-40% of the companies already using DevOps, and many other rest of the organizations are also moving towards DevOps. So application DevOps is there everywhere. In each and every company, DevOps is there, but it's up to the maturity of the company or the client, right? They may use fully automated DevOps, means end-to-end DevOps, or they might have got only CI in place. Some people use both CI CD like this. It depends on the maturity of the organizations. Okay. Uh, but DevOps is there for applications. Okay. When it comes to the database, right? It's very less. I would say not even 20% of the people are doing the database DevOps. The one reason is the traditional mentality of the DBS. The other one is business don't want to take risks because the data, right? If your application classes doesn't matter, you can simply take the backup, obviously take the backup, and you override your existing copy, which is paid. So it's easy to roll back your applications, but not the DevOps. Sorry, not the database, because database rollback means, let us say you are having a database size like uh, 10 gigabytes of data, petabytes of data. You can't simply roll back it, because even though you are having high-end servers, still it takes hours and hours. And not only that one, you might need to make many changes in your applications as well when you are dealing with databases. And other thing is, it's not easy to generate test data. Many people talk about test data management, but most of the people don't use automated test data. It's all manual. So because uh, I have many friends in other companies like Novartis, etc. They have all the rich tool set in place. They don't. I mean, you can't name that they don't have this one. They have everything in place. Still, their testing is manual because they deal with the drugs data, right? And if you are making it automated, who is authoring that automated test data? No one can take the responsibility. That's why in the companies like Novartis or insurance companies, still the test data management is manual. They do manually create the test data and verify it because they can't take a risk. In the same way, even for the database deployments as well, uh, uh, not all the organizations can take a risk, because if the applications go down, their business will be impacted. But companies like Microsoft, Google, these things, right? They are mature, and these are the creators, right? They do the database DevOps. They do the end-to-end database DevOps. They don't have anything manual because they are product owners, and they know I mean how to deal with any issues. And the consulting companies, other product companies, it's not the case. But the things are changing from last 2 years. The way you are having Jenkins or VSTS or Azure DevOps, etc. The tools became available even for the database DevOps as well. Okay, so that's why now from last couple of years, people are starting thinking about database DevOps. That means nothing. It's nothing but your automated build and deployments of your database, but not to the large scale. So now people are taking baby steps. The I mean low impact applications are smaller databases. So once they are stabilized, they are moving to little. I mean, they're increasing the complexity level of application. But if you know that one right now, right, it will become easier for you because people don't know about it, right? If you know a little bit about it, then your chances will be more and more. Okay, so it's better to embrace in the initial days itself. Okay, so let's see what is database DevOps. Of course, you know what is application DevOps because it's all about your requirements, code, and you do the builds and then deployment. It's all about that one. In the same way, the database DevOps as well. Right. So, what do you do in database DevOps? So, in your application DevOps, you are doing the code versioning. In the same way, for database DevOps as well, you need to do the versioning for your database objects. The objects can be your tables, procedures, or views, etc. There are different databases, and your naming convention may change. Probably in Oracle, you call it as a package. But stored procedures, tables, views, these are all the standard terminology across all the data. And then database change management. That means so how you approve your database changes. That means you create some database objects. Let us say in Sprint One, you created some 5 tables, 10 stored procedures, and once you're done with the development, you need to move it to the queue environment. How do you do the change management? Means who will approve those changes? So that change management process, which is nothing but our release management. And what else? So the whole idea of DevOps is a faster releases, right? Okay, so because of database DevOps, though our applications are being deployed to the environments very quickly, but because of the database dependency, we are not moving that faster. Okay, because the application is deployed in 2 minutes, but the database changes because someone has to manually log into the server or log into your SQL Server or Oracle IDs and run your scripts. And before that, you need to take many approvals from the people, right? You will have a verification calls, okay, with development team. Say, okay, I have these 10 tables scripts. Are these correct? So you will have this kind of manual coordination, which increases your release times. But when you do the database DevOps, all these things will be addressed the way the application DevOps is addressing the manual activity. Okay, so let's see what is the traditional way of database deployment and automated way of deployment. So in the traditional database deployment, this is what we do, right? We maintain the scripts, but it will not be in any Git or any version control mechanism. Basically, mostly they will be in the database engine itself. So you will not keep it separately. Okay. If you are some mature organization, what people do, they generate the scripts and keep it in some version control, but they don't do version controlling. They just keep it in the version control system like Git. Okay. But what is the problem? You don't know which scripts are related to which sprint, which scripts are related to which requirement. You don't have any idea because you are using it as only some kind of backup stuff. So what's the other one in the manual? Manual, we just discussed manual verification, right? Developers, database developers created some number of tables and procedures, etc. And they will be given to the database administrator. But before they deploy them to the other environments, your database and production database, you do have some manual, some calls, right? You will have a walkthrough. Okay, these are the scripts. These are the objects that I have in my dev environment, and these are the scripts. Are you okay? Are you okay? Such kind of calls. Okay, and then so that's what you are handshaking. Once it is ready, then everybody will be happy, and DB guys will go ahead and deploy them to the different environments. And for every environment, you will have the same call. Though you are having the same script, for every environment, you are having the same. And then finally, traceability issues. We just talked about it. We don't know which script is related to which requirement, or which script is related to which script is available in the which environment, like that. So these are the some issues in the traditional way of deployment or database deployments, or some activities what we do. So in the database DevOps, what we do, it's no versioning here. Everything is version. That means you will not be doing or you will not be generating the scripts and keeping it in the version control. You will integrate your database with the version control. The way we integrate our code from Visual Studio or Eclipse with the Azure repos, in the same way you integrate your database scripts with some version control mechanism. We see what is that. Okay. Traceability, because now it is in version control and you have the traceability way, right? Like you have the work items and you link with those work items with your database scripts because this is already in version control. And when it goes to the build and deployments, there also you are associating your work items with build and releases, right? Of course, we haven't gone to the release area. So you associate your work item. So you have the traceability. Let us say if some issue occurs in the production, so you know in some screen the issue occurred, you know that screen is related to some requirement. That requirement is linked with your code or script. So you can easily trace it. You don't need to ask someone else. No manual coordination. The way we done the automated builds so far, there is no manual intervention required, right? Everything is automated. Here also, everything is automated. You don't need anybody's. Once the developer or database developer finishes his table creation or procedure creation, it is already available. From there, you will plug that into your CI pipeline and then CD pipeline. So deployed part of your source. Generally, what happens even now also as we speak also, always this application releases and database releases are different. So some team do the application deployments, whether it is automated or non-automated. And some other team like DBS do this deployment. They work in silos. There is no coordination. Okay, but when you use this database DevOps, we are integrating. We are keeping both the things in only one pipeline. Of course, if you want to, if a team wants it as a separate job, we will create a separate job. But still, we have the integration. Okay, so it's up to the business requirement, your management decision. So I can keep this database deployment and build as part of my single pipeline, or else I can keep it as part of another pipeline also. But still, it is in the tool. So these are the differences between our traditional database deployments and database DevOps, and how we do it. Obviously, we have to use some tools, right? Some tools and combine with your techniques. Okay. So for application DevOps, we are using Jenkins. Now our course is about Azure DevOps, and there can be Bamboo, there can be PLC, and there are Octopus, Zapier Lab. There are hundreds and hundreds of tools. In the same way, for database DevOps as well, we have the tools already available. It's been it became famous from the last couple of years. So the most famous is Redgate, because Redgate is a very famous vendor, right? Be it on the infrastructure side, he has many other products as well, not only this database DevOps. He's into infrastructure, he's into OSS, and he has many other products as well. And then another one is a Liquibase, is another vendor. He has a product, and there are products like Datical, etc. So there are many vendors now in the industry from last couple of years who are supporting this database DevOps. Means everything is okay. So in our demo, we will use Redgate. The reason so we have the integration directly with the Visual Studio, and I don't need to install any product separately. Okay, this is like Azure DevOps, right? They made it a very straightforward. And if you are using some other thing like Vbase or something, you need to install some software. But we go ahead with the most famous ones. That is it. You can do some little research. So what we need to do? So like application DevOps, it has a build and deploy, build and release pipelines, right? Even for database DevOps also, you will have the build and release. So since we are currently dealing with the CI, continuous integration, which is nothing but your build pipeline. For now, we deal with the build pipeline. So we integrate the database with our build pipeline. So for that, you need to do a couple of things. So, the first thing is we will install some extension, Redgate extension in our Visual Studio, because you need to work with the database objects. And then we also create so then we'll create a SQL Server database. So I deal with SQL Server. So we create a SQL Server database project, which contains your databases. Okay. And then we use some tasks in your build pipeline. So you have the development environment ready, you have the project ready, and then you have the pipeline. So with that, we can say CI pipeline is complete, both code and data. After that, we can move on to the release pipeline. Okay. Let's okay. Before we do that, I mean, there are some other people who never worked on database as well. Let's do some manual activities, how people generally do it, and then we can move on to the. So let's get into our. So I'm a Microsoft guy, so obviously I tend to use SQL Server. So I'm having SQL Server Management Studio on my laptop. So I'll go and create one database and probably create some tables and see how we move them from dev database to the query. Let's spend a couple of minutes on that one. So I'm just connecting to my local only. Okay. Okay, so this is how it happens, right? So you have your SQL Server Management Studio, and you might be having a database like dev database, right? So I just name it as a dev, and I'm not going to change any parameters. Let it be like this. And in the dev database, and by default, you will have something. So I'll go and create my tables. ID, then I say let it be like that, and then ah, let it be integer. I mean, I'm not doing any coding, but still let it be integer. Okay, so that's it. I'll just go and save this table. I'll give the name and just give some name. That's it. Okay, I created a table. If I refresh it, so I have a table one. So, and in the same way, people can go and create some procedures as well. Okay, let's go and create some stored procedure. So the good thing with these things is I don't need to write anything. I can simply use it. So I'm not writing any code here. I'll just save it as it is. Okay, since this is a stored procedure, this is executable. You need to execute it rather than saving it. Let's execute it. Okay. Oh, these things also giving me error. Let me refresh it whether it's been created or not. Okay, I think it is saying. Okay, sorry, I just at least I need to give the name here. Test procedure. Okay, and then let me delete these parameters. I don't want any parameters, just for demonstration purpose, right? Let me delete this. That's it. Then is there any? Okay, I'll simply say I just created a table, right? Table one. That's it. That's kind of stored procedure. Let's go and run it. Yes. Now let me refresh it. So this is how the development happens, right? So you have database developers creating tables and procedures and views, and there might be a number of other objects as well. Okay, let's not worry about that one. Now, when they finish with the development in the dev environment, obviously they need to move their code to the some QA data. Let's go and create a, since we are starting from scratch, let's create a database QA. I'm not changing anything here. Let's go and so this is where the concepts comes into picture, right? Now, to move your tables and procedures to the QA database, you are not the person who is moving it. Some DBA has to move it. Now, there are a number of ways how they do it. Either developers create the scripts and give it to the DBAs, or DBAs directly go to the dev database and take it. Okay, let me take scripts basically. So I'll go to the dev database. I'm just showing very in a wise way. Let's say people just create a. So this is a table creation script. I'll simply save it. Uh, I'll save it to my some desktop table script. It will be with. So let me see where it is. Okay, I have this one here. Okay. And then again go and generate the same thing for your procedures. And then save it. Okay, let's minimize it. So now I have my procedure and as well as table scripts. Okay, this is how generally people, okay, there are a number of ways. I'm just showing very typical way how people generate this. Okay, and of course this is not the best practice, right? So you don't need to know about these things. Just so you see, right, you have the create table script. I go and run this script in the QA database, it will create it, there is no problem. But by mistake somebody go and again try to run this script, it will not create, because this object already exists. Okay, these are the database best practices that a DBAs or a developers follow. That means they create some reusable scripts like, no, okay, if object exists, doesn't create, if doesn't exist, create, such kind of things. But let's not worry about all those things. Okay, now people create the scripts or generate the scripts like this, and they may directly email to the DBS, or they may keep it in some folders, or they may keep it in the some Git or somewhere, and they tell the location. This is where my scripts are available. Then people take it over a call and they go and run it. Let's go and run it. So again, there are multiple ways, right? So generally what many people do, they go and open the script in the QA, I mean, and then run it. Let's go and open the script. My script is a file which is on my desktop, and this is table script. Let's open it. So currently it is pointing to the Dev database, and they simply make it QA. That's it, and then they run it. This is how people do it. Let's so I have my table one is created in the QA database. Okay, this looks good if you are having one or two procedures. Of course, you don't need an automation for these kind of things. Why do you want to spend a couple of days to set up your automation when it is taking only 1 or 2 minutes to generate or create scripts in the different environment? But it's not the case, right? You will be having hundreds of tables or thousands of tables, hundreds of procedures being done by a number of developers. So it's not easy. And not only that, see, since it is some demonstration, I simply go ahead and run this thing without any fear. But if it is a production or the UAT, or at least even your QA also, you can't run that easily, right? You will have that fear. What happens if I run this script, etc. Because you don't know what you are not an expert, right? Not everyone is an expert. So that's where your automation comes into picture. Rather than generating the scripts like this manually and putting into some version control and do a verification. Let us say uh, we just talked about this table already exists in QA database. Now, if I go and run it, this is what happens, right? I'll get an error. It happens in the production environments as well, because people don't have that what is a differential steps, because when you are having 1,000 tables, right, nobody knows if that table is already being created in your production environment or not. What people do, they simply go and try to create it, they will get into issues. It sometimes it may not, so most of the times it may not cause problem, but what happens, your deployment will fail. Because of the deployment failure, even sometimes what business people do, they ask you to roll back the entire release itself. Though it is not causing any problem, they will ask you to roll back, because we are technical, we understand, but business people, they don't, they're scared basically. And what happens, your releases gets delayed. So these are all the different issues when you come across when you are dealing with a manual way of database deployment. Of course, we've been used to that one. Now the things are changing. You don't need to even generate the scripts like this, and you don't need to have the handshakes between the different teams, and you don't even need to verify if this table or any object for that table or procedure, if that is already exist in the target database or not. Our target can be QA or UAT or anything, right? So all those things will be done by the tool for you. You just need to configure it. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that activity. Okay, what I'm going to do, basically, I would like to demonstrate these database concepts from the cloud itself. But if I have to create some database on the Azure cloud, right, it takes a couple of minutes for each database. So first, I will start with this setup process, and then else let me do one thing. I'll start creating it, and then we'll start working on this one. Let me go ahead and create some, the way I created the database on my local SQL server, right? I'll use Azure SQL database to create the database, because that gives you the exposure to both the elements. How you use Azure Cloud. Of course, I'm not teaching you in detail because that comes under Azure Cloud Administration and database administration, at least, but you will be knowing how to do it. Let's go to our portal.azure.com. Then I'm using my latest ID. Okay, so Azure is having past version of SQL Server, right? So you call it as a RDS or you call it as a Azure SQL, because you don't need to worry about your underlying infrastructure. It takes care of all the scalability, etc. Let's go and search for SQL databases. I'm going to take SQL databases, and let's go and create an SQL database. So I don't have, this is a very fresh account. Let's create a group. I'll name the same thing like, demo group. And then I would like to select, let me give name dev, database name is dev. And then server, I don't have any server. Let's create a new one. I have to give some name, Azure demo DB. And then it's already in use. Okay, I'll make it Purna. That's it. That be there. Should be available. Okay, and let's take the same. I'll give the same user ID so that I can remember. Okay, and then password. Then let me change the location. India. Okay, take this. Be available. No, it's not available. This is a problem when we use this because it's something. Okay, looks it is available because we are using free versions. Okay, let's say okay. Okay, while the database creation is going on, let's test working connectivity. Let it be like this. Okay, okay, yes. Yes, I'm going quickly because it takes a lot of time to explain and it's not part of this one. And I'm not using any tags, etc. Let's go and create. Estimated per month, 991. Okay. Anyways, I'll be deleting this after this session. Okay. While it is going on, let's minimize this. Okay. So in the presentation we mentioned first we need to prepare our, we need to have the extension, right? Okay. Let's go to our Visual Studio. The name is, you can search with Redgate. So I'm going, I'm going to use the same solution because I want to keep this project as well part of this. So let it open. So you know how to install extension, right? We already seen Persona, right? Or if you are a developer, you already know it. So go to extensions and then manage extensions. So I already have this extension and I don't want to remove it because this comes with a 30-day free trial. If I uninstall it, again I can't install it because it is tied to my Mac IP or whatever it is. Okay, let's go and search for Redgate. This is the one you need to use, Redgate SQL change automation. This is a task, I mean extension it since see you see the tick mark, right? Because I already, so I don't want to install, as I told you, I can't reuse it again. So let's close this. Now, when you have this extension installed, right? You will have another project type with the Redgate actually. The way you are having MVC or a desktop, etc. In the same way, we will have another new project type. So what I'm going to do now? Now I'm going to just go and create a new, I mean, add a new project to this solution. Go and create, add a new project. You see at the bottom SQL change automation project, and once you install that extension, you will get this project. Okay. Now let's go and do next. Give some name. You can give anything. Then create. Now it will I mean guide me a series of steps on how to set up my database project. See, in reality or in your organization, you may not be using it, but you will be the first person if they want to use it. Okay? Because I personally suggested for more than 10-15 clients. Hardly 2 people went for it because it comes with a cost as well. And it also changes the way how the DBAs are working, how the teams are working. And the DBAs most likely, don't go with this one because there is a fear, right? If it is automated, nowadays DBA positions are getting obsolete. Means most of the times what DBAs do, they do and fine tune the databases. The performance issue comes, they do update the indexes, they do troubleshoot, and they do deploy your tips. Other than that, they don't do anything. Now everybody is moving to the cloud, right? So you don't need a special DBA skills to create a databases and fine tuning, etc. You are not doing it because that is being taken care by the cloud itself. Let us say I created a database and there won't be any performance issue because based on my subscription, it gives me the performance. If my subscription is having some 10,000, there are concepts like iWatch, etc. If I need a transaction capability, 10,000 transactions per second, and that is based on my subscription. But if it is on-premise, some DBA has to fine tune your databases along with the infrastructure guy. Because the infrastructure guy has to support the from the OS side and the hardware side, and the DBA guy has to do it from the database engine side. But now there is nothing. That's why DBAs are not willing to, go ahead with the database DevOps. Okay, that's a different story. I'm just giving the reality. Now let's get started. So you got this wizard, right? So it's all about source and target, right? Now this wizard will allow ask us to select your source and then select your target. So once you done that setup, right, it will keep on, it will analyze, okay, what new scripts are there when compared to your target environment. Whenever you are ready for the build and deployments, it will generate the scripts for you. So there is no manual things here, and this will be already in your version control. Okay, and I will talk about a few more concepts in this database deployment once it is created. First, let me check if my DB is being created or not. Okay, my source DB is created, I mean, which is my Dev database. Okay, let me go and check it. Okay, this is my Dev database, and this is a server name I given, right? Azure Demo DB Pune. Okay, now let me go ahead and create one more database. Let's say QA. Okay, again, what I do, I mean, there are a number of ways you can go, and I just used it, so frequently used one SQL Server database. Let's go and create a new database, say QA. Let's use the same resource group and name the database name as QA. That's it. Basically, you will not be doing all these things because these will be already existing in your environment. You just go ahead with the wizard here. That's it. But since we are doing it from scratch, I'm just showing. Let me go to my okay. That's it. Networking, then additional settings. I'm not changing anything here. In the networking, it's already yes. Okay. Tags.
Sorry to interrupt you. One question
Yeah.
here. Normally, if you're doing real-time environment, we have primary and secondary DB and AGL connection. All these things are there, right? Those type of things internally handled by the means DevOps, or how it can be handled.
No, you are not dealing with any database stuff here. Say, I don't have any database created before I come to the session. That's why I'm creating in front of you. Otherwise, you will not touch any of these databases, and you are not responsible for that. All you do is pipeline creation for your databases. And you don't care how the availability is configured for your databases, how the zones are created, I mean, set up for your databases, because that's the responsibility of your database people and the cloud administrators, not the DevOps guy. Okay. Okay, let me go and create. Okay, it may take a couple of minutes. Let's get back because I already have one database available, right? So I can use that for the timing. Let's go to home and Dev database, and I need a server name. So I can take the server name. Okay, it went here. Let me go to the Dev database. So you have this server name. I need this one. Okay, let's copy it, and let me go back to my yeah. So it's about your development and target. That's a terminology, but it's all about source and target. Okay. Now let's set up this database. Specify the connection. I have many things. I'm not using those areas. Let's browse it, and then so since I already logged in, right, with my Azure credentials, it is showing me. Otherwise, it will not show. Okay, you can give the server name here. So this is a server name. I just taken it, and I'm not going to use the Windows authentication because I already set up user ID password and I create my database. Okay, let's go and I'm using the same user ID. Remember, set test connection succeeded. They are right. Okay, test connection succeeded. Now done. Okay, it's verified. The connection is established. Now I need to specify the target. So this is how we do the manual verification, right? If the objects are available in the target environment or not. Okay. So when we set up this one, it will do verification. So let me see if my QA is done or not. I can go and check here. I can do it from the local SQL server as well. But if I do the build pipeline, right, my local SQL server is not available to my Azure DevOps because I cannot access my laptop. That's the reason I have to use it. Okay, it looks QA is also done, right? Go to resource. Okay, cool. The QA is also available now. Let's switch back to our Visual Studio. The same way you set up the dev or the source, set up the target as well. And now go to browse, and then let's copy. This is the server name, okay, and not Windows authentication, the SQL Server authentication. Then let me select the database. QA. Okay, let's test connection. Okay, as of now, I don't have any objects in my database. It's an empty database, right? So let me create one table at least in my database. Okay, I'm not. Okay, we'll do directly from the database processes. So there are many scenarios. You already have it. That is the most relevant scenario. The other one is from scratch. It doesn't matter. End of the day. Let's go and say okay. Done. And then now say next. So it will tell you, it will create some baseline scripts. That means it will compare your, it will take the schema of your development database. It makes a copy. It's a meta database. It will keep in the database project. Otherwise, it cannot track the changes. That there should be some schema in the version control. It will generate that one actually, and then it will compare and it will create the differential script as well. Let us say in dev you are having 10 tables and QA you are having 8 tables. That means 2 tables are additional. It will generate those tables which are not available in the target data, which is nothing but LQ. So let's go and click on create. So much stuff happens here. Since I don't have anything, it may not take much time. But still, it takes couple of minutes because we are using free trial. And see, I have 8 days remaining. So I just want to close this in these 8 days. Otherwise, either I need to change my laptop or I have to tweak my registries. So this is a very famous. If some companies are using some database DevOps, they mostly be using this one. And then other one is a Liquibase. Liquibase is also started getting traction. But probably after a couple of years, right? I mean, at least from after 1 year or so, most of the people will be using the database. Okay, I did not touch anything, hopefully. Uh, Let me refresh one more time. Yeah. You see this, right? It is checking for changes in the Dev database. And then it will compare with targets. So many things happens in the background. So there will be some tricks that we need to know as well, because these are the new things, right? You will not get any help online. And if some help is there, mostly that resolution is specific to his issue, and he might be using different versions, and sometimes whatever the issue or resolution given by him may not work for you as well. So these are the typical issues that you face when you are starting only. Okay, let it be like this. Okay. Okay, so while it is going on, let it take time. So hey, what it is saying, did I create anything? I did not create anything. But I think this connected to some different one. This is not my current database. This is my old one. Let me see if something went, because I was telling, right, did I click something? Let me see if it is connected to the same thing. This is Azure Demo DB Purna. Okay. Azure Demo DB Purna. This is right. And then this is a dev. Fine. And then Azure Demo DB Purna. Okay. Right. Let me remove the other things. I'm not sure why it connected to that. Because whatever you see, right, those are for the other server. That's the history, and from here, okay. So dev database. Let me give one more time. Remember test connection. Then see, this project has been created, right? And you will see you have these migrations, and in a typical build and deployment activity, you have post actions and pre actions, right? And that is there everywhere, and that's why these folders have been created. Hey guys, there is some issue with uh, my Visual Studio because it's pointing to my older database. Okay. Okay, so okay, rather than troubleshooting now itself, I will delete some histories from my side, and I will repeat this one tomorrow. By that time, we will have the database ready and everything ready. And so once this is ready, right, what's the next step? So the next step is pipeline creation. Okay, let's go to, we are not doing it now. We will do it tomorrow. I'll just show it. I think that is showing me from the history. That's not from the current, because I don't have even those databases available, because the databases that I created using my old Azure account, but it is showing I'm using the new one, but it is showing the old one. That's okay. Sign in. It is going to sign in with a different account. So right now we have only one agent job, right? So we just named it as a SonarQube, which does this your automated build of your code and as well as SonarQube analysis. Now for the database deployment, either you can go and add the tasks to the same agent job, or you can create another agent job as well. So for the simplicity and separation of concerns, I'll go and create another job. For creating the task, you have to go to the job and click on the plus symbol. And for creating another job in the same pipeline, we have to go to your pipeline and then go and select add an agent job. Okay. And then I'll name it as a database DevOps job. And I'm not changing anything here because it already inheriting the pool from the parent. Let's go and save it because I haven't added any tasks here. After this, we will add a couple of tasks to this one. As I told in the, we will be using a task called SQL change automation build. If it is not available, you know how to install it. So what I'm going to do, since I'm already having it, I will go and add the task here. SQL change automation. Okay. Oh, sorry, I've been using in the older one. That's not there. That's good actually. Let's go and get it free. Clicked. Okay. Internet is slow. It looks down. Okay, done. Let me go back to my here. Let me refresh. Okay, I got the task now. Let's go there. Okay, right now I can't do anything here because still my database project is not ready. So this is how we add it. Tomorrow we will finish this database project. This is still in progress. Even I haven't pushed it to the repository. So we will set up the project and we will see how we make changes and how we can generate the differential scripts and then use the build pipeline to generate the artifacts. After that, we will move to the CD pipeline, and again we have to repeat the release related activities. Guys, that's it for me from me for today. Let me know if you have any questions.
Actually, what is the functionality of Redgate?
So Redgate is a product vendor. Okay. The way we are using Azure DevOps for the DevOps implementation, in the same way, Redgate is having this product, SQL Change Automation product, which does the database DevOps for us.
For automation purpose, we use Redgate DevOps tool. Is it right?
Yeah, exactly. The way you, there are a number of tools as I shown in my slide deck. we will be using the Redgate for the demonstration purpose.
In Visual Studio, we have installed Redgate extension. The purpose of Redgate adding that extension is to compare two databases. Only to compare two databases?
No. It's not just for comparing two databases. As I told you, we are using the Redgate product for the database. To do that, you need to have that product installed, right? So, but Redgate, what it did, instead of giving it as a standalone product, they made it as an extension to your Visual Studio. That's all. So now we use that extension in the Visual Studio and work on the database process. But some people may give it as a separate product where you go and install it and use it separately.
And one more question, Purna. Extensions will come only Visual Studio 2019. I'm unable to see in 2017 Visual Studio.
I need to look into the documentation, that Redgate documentation. I think that is available even for 2017 as well.
I'm not asking about the Redgate. Extension tab is there, right? Analysis extension. That tab itself not coming in Visual Studio 2017 in my mission. That's why I'm asking. There is any extensions I need to add, or it's only coming for?
No. It should be there. If you don't have extensions tab, then you have to go to this tools.
Okay, tools. After that.
And then you have a place for the manage extensions or something. Okay, you can go there because I'm using this one. I don't think.
Yeah. Extensions and updates. I'm seeing.
Exactly. So only the position will change. You will have all that.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, guys. No questions. We'll again catch up tomorrow, and we'll close this build pipeline for the database project. And remember, you will not be doing these database creations. Just for the demonstration purpose, I'm showing it here.
Hi Purna. Hello.
Yeah, please.
Purna, in Visual Studio 2019, I am using MacBook. There, I am not able to find this solution and test those things. I am not able to find in my Mac with Visual Studio thing.
Man, MacBook, I never used MacBook. I don't have MacBook as well. Even I have to do some online study only because I'm not a Mac user.
No, if we close, it means then from where we can find it in Windows.
What's that?
That solution, those things in Visual Studio.
It will be in your some path, right? Let us say I'm putting it under C:\users. I'm putting in some path, and you will be having in the somewhere on your laptop, right? You can directly go and.
No, can you please open that Visual Studio once in your machine?
Okay. Yeah. Either you can open or you can. These are frequently used, so I can directly check open from it. This is a path, right? I'm putting your projects. In the same way, you can put it in your own place. Okay, just check the path. I mean, I don't know where you are keeping your projects, but check your. Okay, guys, then we'll catch up tomorrow. If any issues, and you can drop an email. I will respond to you. I have to catch up some other thing. Have a good day.